Hello and welcome to 3 Minute Gaming. I'm Nathan, and I'm going to show this games with your time and cash. Today's game is The Last of Us Part 1, remastered but for the PS5 and with a slightly new title. The Last of Us is back. Again, is this semi-remake worth checking out? The Last of Us Part 1 is currently a PS5 exclusive, and its MSRP is a whopping $70. Gotta love next gen. And the game is exactly as long as the previous one, about 14 to 20 hours plus the bonus DLC campaign. So what exactly is The Last of Us Part 1? Well, it's a remake of a PS3 game of the same-ish name, which is a story-driven third-person shooter with stealth and survival elements. And because of the nature of this review, I feel I should share my experience with the series so you can get where my perspective on this review is coming from. I played through about half of The Last of Us on the original PS3 and never actually beat it or played it since because it was a rental. So I went into this version like it was a completely new game. However, to give a fair assessment of the upgrades, I did play through the first half of the PS4 remaster after beating Part 1. The Last of Us is so well known it feels foolish to summarize it, so I'll do that in brief before going into the changes this version adds. The world has been infected with an awful virus. No, not COVID. This one turns people into crazy zombies and then mold monsters. You play as Joel, a broken man who lost his daughter during the initial outbreak, tasked with taking the teenager Ellie across the country in a bid to help find a vaccine for said virus. On the surface, the story is fairly bog-standard zombie road trip, but it is memorable because of the slow progression of Joe and Ellie's relationship, as the near-constant interactions paired with some excellent dialogue and voice acting let you gradually get under their prickly exteriors and learn more about them both. Combat itself is a hybrid of third-person shooter and stealth with some light crafting and survival elements. Enemies are brutal, and even just a few can easily overwhelm you, so you'll be reliant on stealth to sneak around and watch the same choking animation again and again for 1,000 times. You'll fight not only zombies but hostile humans as well, though the same tactic of avoiding firefights by either killing via stealth or just bypassing them remains viable. The remake is notable for two large upgrades, the first and more obvious one being its improved graphical fidelity, particularly in the facial animations and lighting, which takes an already great-looking PS3 game into true next-gen, complete with a 60 FPS mode. The other is the game's absolutely insane amount of gameplay modifiers and accessibility options. While the accessibility features are always a great addition, for those of you who don't usually employ them, there's plenty of other great stuff here as well, such as some specific difficulty modifiers, some options to make the clunky shooting feel a bit better, auto pickup of items, tweaking drop rates, and so on. This allows you to transform the combat segments into a completely different feeling game should you wish. And honestly, ultimately, that is it. This is a remake of the critically acclaimed PS3 game, now exclusive to PS5, with a large list of improvements while still being very faithful to the original game's formula, maybe to a fault. So what did I like about The Last of Us Part 1? Well, the story holds up really well, with the writing and voice acting incredibly sharp and conveying the complex characters and decisions of Joel and Ellie as they try to make sense of a broken world. Additionally, as mentioned, the gameplay and accessibility features are phenomenal, best in industry, and I found myself tweaking them fairly often to find my optimal way of playing the game for maximum fun, and it honestly made me wish every game had this type of accessibility feature. And lastly, this game is gorgeous. One of the 3 games that made me say, holy crap, next gen's here, the others being RE Village and Forza Horizon 5. There has been some hubbub online about this, but playing both back to back and more importantly in motion on an OLED TV with VRR, it is clear how incredible this game looks. Especially the facial animations, they now convey a much deeper emotion of the various characters. When it comes to the bad, they were perhaps a bit too religious in adhering to the original game, with some elements such as the very boring, bland ladder and raft puzzles still in the game, which probably should have been either axed or adjusted to feel more modern. Additionally, combat is still very clunky, even with the modifiers like auto-aim improving the feel. It still never really has the slickness of third-person shooting or melee that I'd get from, say, a Gears of War or even Last of Us Part 2. And lastly, this is basically a direct translation of a PS3 game to the PS5 with all the clunky bits included, so if you are very familiar with the PS3 game or its PS4 re-release, there honestly isn't a lot here to validate that price tag. As you know, I rate games here on a 3-point scale: must play, maybe consider, don't bother. I do think The Last of Us Part 1 is a must play, but let's break this down just a little. As somebody who never experienced The Last of Us in its entirety, I am glad that this was the version that I played first. The improved facial animations alone added an insane amount to the game's emotional weight, but that being said, for many people, this probably won't be enough to warrant its cost. However, if you really loved the PS3 game, I think you will love this one even at its full price. Keep in mind, this is coming from the guy that bought the $200 version of Nier Replicant, even though he already owned the original Nier on PS3 and Xbox 360. So take it as a grain of salt, but I do think that if you love something, game, movie, whatever, then don't let anybody tell you whether or not to buy it if you really want it. For passing fans, you can probably wait until this inevitably hits PS Plus or a deep sale, but if you've been looking to try this series out, I cannot think of a better entry point. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Have you played The Last of Us Part 1? Did you play the remaster? Did you play the original game? Does this feel like a cash grab? I mean, Sony already did this with the Ghost of Tsushima director's cut, but that's just me. But regardless, if you've never played this game, I highly recommend checking out this version.